So Elon Musk's Tesla robotaxi is already failing.
Already?
Yeah.
How?
Well, they can't even use the word robotaxi.
Oh, why? Is it too much common name?
Yeah, so basically what it is, and you guys know this, when you register like your brand name or your product name,
Mm,
etc., you gotta, get it cleared. And basically, this is the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office said it's just too generic of a
I
name. It's just
see.
too plain, right? Robotaxi. It's like trying
Mm,
to, say, hey, the word robot is mine,
mm,
right? So, what are they gonna call this thing? That's actually quite
yeah,
interesting.
like cyber taxi.
Yeah, so cyber taxi, cyber cab, that might
Oh,
be too
oh
generic
yeah,
also,
also.
because he wanted to use cyber cab.
Well, he has a cyber truck.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. That is a good point. Okay, so here's the interesting thing about this. So being too generic doesn't
Mm,
necessarily mean you can't take it.
mm-hmm,
So for example, in the past, Tesla tried to use Model E,
mm-hmm.
but Ford had that one.
I see.
And then Tesla also tried to use like three lines.
Uh-huh.
So it would be
That's
like
Adidas.
yeah. So the deal is like no to there. And so yeah, that's a good point because like theoretically they could have gotten robotaxi
Mm,
theoretically, but again they ruled that as being too generic. So I was just kind of having fun. I asked ChatGPT for
or
20.
or like X taxi.
Yeah. Okay. So the chances are Elon Musk will go with someone with X, right?
Uh,
I asked ChatGPT for some suggestions if they don't want to call it X or
yeah.
X car or it's so generic too though, that kind of stuff. That's why car names will actually change by country to country.
Mm,
So for example, in Korea there's a car that we reviewed. It's called the Casper here,
mm.
but it's called an Inster in
In
Europe.
Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in one country, like a name
Yeah, yeah,
will be
yeah.
taken already, or it translated and just doesn't translate well. But here's just quick suggestions like what about Auto Cab, Robo Ride,
Mm,
Neo Cruise, Cabatron? To us, for some reason,
Cabatron, yeah.
to in English to Americans, like whenever we say Tron, it just sounds funny.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
Trump movie.
Yeah, like yeah, the Transformer kind or Tron movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Trump movie.
When we were kids, like I don't know, we would just like call everything Tron. Like he's
Oh.
an angry Tron person, or it just sounds funny. SwiftBot, GoPilot, Driveo, Taxion, Navgo. I'm just giving you some possible suggestions.
That's good.
AutoHail, Zippy Cab, Rydra, which I thought was a funny one. That kind of sounds like Hydra. I feel like I'm helping Elon, but it's not like they couldn't figure this stuff out. They can use
Yeah.
ChatGPT too or his own Grok thing. But this shows you guys how it is a difficult business to launch this kind of thing, and it also shows why Google went with Waymo
Yeah.
because maybe in the past they tried to pick like, hey, we're going to be the cyber taxi or robot buddy or whatever, and they're like, no, you're going to Waymo. Or another good example is Lyft.
Mm-hmm.
So they spell that with a Y
I see.
because Lyft's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or Uber is an interesting one, right? This like in English, like Uber is like what? It doesn't really have any meaning. But they picked that. So to just call your service taxi it's not going to
really
fly.
good.
Yeah. So they're going to have to come up with something completely new. You might be right. It may end up just being the X Transit or X. That's so generic. I don't know.
Or
We'll see. What's
X
that?
is 10, so maybe XI11.
XI11.
No, XI,
Yeah.
that's 11.
It could be. Well, that's going to be hard to get one as well. Other Elon Musk news is quite interesting. He said they're doing the $5 million gold visa thing already, or
Testing it.
yeah. The actual phrase from Elon Musk. Let me read it for you guys here. It says, "We're doing a quiet trial to make sure the system works properly. Once it is fully tested, it'll be rolled out to the public with an announcement by the president." And if you guys know what this is basically selling residency for $5 million. It's laughable because it's just so corrupt, but that's who these people are. And we've got to talk about the South African story because people have been asking me about it. And essentially, what it is they, I guess, are refugees, and Trump has flown these people into the USA. What's going on with this?
So there is like around 50 people of the refugee
Right.
of the South Africa, but they're not like they're different than other refugees. How is different?
So, if you guys don't know my situation, I'm a refugee from Vietnam, and I came out at the end of the war. My family was in the South, Vietnamese, the North Vietnamese won. My father was actually put in prison, so like literally, people's lives were in danger. Now, the people from South Africa, It's a very different situation. The ones that they brought into the USA, they're all white.
Why?
The situation with white people in South Africa, what percentage of South Africa is white?
8%.
Right. And
But-
what percent own the land?
75%.
Right. So if you get that again, 8% of South Africa is white, and then the white people in South Africa own most of the land.
Yeah,
Basically.
most of the land, and that means they're so much wealthier than regular people.
Yeah. So the argument that they're making is that the government's going to come and take away their land and their farmers and stuff. That's the argument that they're making.
Yeah, they're so much in danger, right?
Yeah,
And-
that's the argument that they're making.
Yeah, and the process itself, normally refugees,
Mhm.
it takes years.
Yeah.
2, 3 years, something like that, even longer. But for them, only took 3 months.
So I actually read too, which is very interesting. There was like a local church who's refusing to help because normally churches help refugees,
Mhm.
but in this situation, the argument's going to be, are they really refugees? And
Yeah.
I want to be honest here. Now, it doesn't mean that a white person can't be a refugee.
Mm.
So, for example, I'll just give you an example. So, let's say there is a civil war in say Bosnia or Herzegovina, or let's say like for example, the situation gets really bad in Ukraine. Just
Yeah.
for example, right? So I don't want to give
In
you.
Gaza.
Yeah, sure. You can talk about that as well, and it depends how you define white, right? No, it does, right? Or you could make the case
Yeah.
that say situation gets really bad in Israel, just for example, right? And so maybe they would have to run away or go to somewhere that would be safer. Point being though is that the situation in South Africa is just not comparable, and so
And, when you look at their picture, they're all dressed up, like wearing suits,
yeah, it just the whole thing smells. I'll just say this also, it just feels like this is Elon Musk kind of pushing for this kind of thing because
he's grown up there, right?
yeah, and he tweets out all the time on his platform, South Africa this, South Africa that, all this persecution of white people, and that's kind of the messages that he portrays. You have to tie this stuff together to understanding the Elon Musk story, because remember he gave that basically Nazi salute in Europe, and then sales of Tesla basically tanked. He started promoting right-wing parties and promoting right-wing messages, and then now even his own employees, some of them, want Elon to be fired.
They even made a website.
Yeah. And it was like, get rid of Elon.com. That is something like that. And, and from the perspective of employees, like it's not crazy to want your CEO to be gone if you feel like he's gonna hurt your job and hurt the company, right? That's actually pretty normal for a company to just kick out a CEO. Okay, let's say for example we agree with Elon's politics, okay, which is one thing, but he's like not showing up to work, right? Normally you're gone. I don't care, like, it doesn't matter if you like your politics or not, right? You're gone. You're not showing up to work. But you had both, not showing up to work, and his politics are very questionable.
Yeah.
So
you're hurting the company.
Right. Literally, because you're ticking off the people who originally supported you. So there's that. And what's interesting about it is in the Korean news, you were talking about how they were actually saying Elon got benefit. From being over the Doge thing. Yeah, well, how much were they saying?
2조?
Yeah, and so that's what
2조 8천?
that's what we were saying as well, around 2 billion, something like that. Now, the way that you phrase why he's getting the money is basically because all the investigations on his company magically disappeared.
Stopped, and they just delete the regulation.
Right. And if you guys are familiar with this, and this goes back to our opener with the robotaxi thing, is remember he's trying to put all this technology on the road, and if people get hurt, right, usually you want government regulations to be like, yo, your company's not safe, like shut it down, right? That's a pretty normal thing, or you want them, being Elon Musk's company, to prove that technology works before it gets on the road, right? But if you delete all the regulators, then there's no check on that.
Yeah, not just that. I read, there's he does the animal test.
Yep.
And even human test.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. You can do the human test without
approval.
Yeah.
So the animal testing stuff, I made a video on this before. Actually, his own employees protested because they just not a lot of regard for animals' health, right? Animals. Now, this is true. Part of science is you do tests on animals.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you want to overly torture animal or do anything to more than you have to, right? The same way, say like if you are going to test on humans, you don't want to overly subject people
Yeah.
to things they don't want to be subjected to. And you know, Elon has a track record of ignoring safety at his company. So for example, you know, depending on the company you work in, some companies will say, hey, you know what, we're just going to give you a hard helmet, we're going to give you goggles, we're going to give you like a safety jacket because, you know, we just care about you. Elon must be like, well, if you're going to work here, you're going to go get that stuff yourself. That's on you. That's
Yeah.
your responsibility. Like every company will have different, you know, point of view on that. And there was a rumor. Now I say rumor because Elon denies it, so you know I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Where like people wanted to put up, you know, bright orange around you know certain areas to, you know, be safe.
Yeah, yeah.
And Elon's like, well, I don't like orange. And you know how that's like a problem, right? That's like because he wanted his, you know, factory to look a certain way, but like sometimes you maybe
I
want
like silver, everything silver, no orange, no
yeah
color.
yeah. And so like, you know, that kind of stuff, it's all about we say form over function, right? The same way he wanted the Cybertruck to look a certain kind of way, even though it's like completely impractical.
And falling apart.
Yeah, and the other thing that was quite interesting as well, and got a lot of Elon is I haven't done an Elon video for a while. Trump is going to the Middle East. There's some sort of like big conference thing there, and lo and behold, it was just announced a few hours ago Elon's going to be heading there also. And so it sounds like I think it's the Saudis in this case are got all this money to throw around, and everyone's trying to get contracts to sell military weapons or otherwise to
AI.
them. Yeah, or anything like that. Yeah, because Trump actually did a thing recently where it was like the CHIPS Act. I don't say that. I don't know the CHIPS Act explicitly, but it was basically Biden put restrictions in place on maybe we shouldn't send American chips all around the world, except basically. And Trump started to roll that stuff back, and part of that was because in the Middle East they want to get more chips, basically, right? And so I think there's going to be definitely a fight for chips, and then a fight for that money to build those AI data centers. One thing that's been going on for quite a long time in the Middle East is that they can see the future. They're not stupid. They have money over there, and they know that maybe oil's not necessarily going to be the center of the world for forever, right? Now it is. I would say now oil's still important, but they are trying to rotate into other industries. So tourism being one. They were trying to build like this new futuristic city. I don't know if you ever saw pictures of this thing. Yeah, it was just pretty cool. Whether or not they're going to actually build it, who knows?
I saw another Dubai, like future Dubai. Something.
Yeah. But all sorts of like, you know, just cool looking stuff. They were talking about, you know, building like a new sort of, what do I call it? Silicon Valley where you build chips there. What's his name? Sam Altman, OpenAI was there trying to get some of that money. And then the AI and the crypto, so it's like multiple things. The AI crypto stuff, I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I was telling you guys in the last video, and I'll tell you now. So they announced that Stargate thing about 3 months ago, back in like January, something like that. And I told you guys a bunch of BS. If you don't know, the Stargate thing was basically SoftBank, Oracle, and OpenAI, and Trump. They made an announcement like, it's going to be all these billions of dollars, and we're going to, you know, build all this stuff. And I said in the very beginning, it's like, where are you going to get this money? Because it's already not profitable, and you're really going to put in, you know, 500 billion or whatever, you know, crazy number that they're saying. And as it turned out, like I was right. SoftBank, there's no money coming in. Like literally, it said 3 months later, there's no money coming in. There's no one digging ground.
No.
You know, talk is cheap.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I guess they've been going around trying to raise money.
But no one gives money.
Yeah, and Musk is trying to do the same stuff too as well, is like trying to raise money. Oh yeah, promise you all this AI. And so part of why we track all these stories together, right? And it started with the robotaxi thing, is that you have to understand Musk is kind of like the figurehead of this bubble economy that we're in. And we're going to look back in history like, yeah, you remember that Musk guy who promised, you know, we're all going to buy 5 robots, we're all going to have robotaxis, chips in your brain and all that stuff. Remember that guy? And like, oh my God, how do we believe anything that he said? And he's saying, oh, we're all going to go to Mars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Mars. He doesn't talk about Mars these days, right? He does?
He does because the last thing that I heard was that they want to reorganize the budget over at NASA and put it more towards Mars projects. But it's just all a money grab. Like, even if we had the technology to go there, there's nothing there. There's nothing on Mars, right? I'm not against going. Like, I'm not against it. But
to,
just
you know, the put money on science.
Yeah, not against. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good point. I'm not against science, but like the way Musk talks is like, oh yeah, we're gonna have 1 million people on Mars, and we're gonna have like, you know, thousands of ships launching to Mars every day. And it was actually kind of funny. He was called out the other day where he was saying, you know, he gave an interview on Fox News saying that the sun is eventually going to eat up the Earth because the sun's going to get really big, and then therefore we have to go to Mars, right? But just think about the logic with this. Okay, here's the logic. So if the sun is getting big and it does eat Earth, it's going to eat Mars eventually, right? Because you know,
And-
so running to Mars isn't going to solve your problem.
I don't. He's talking about like billions years.
Yeah. It's like a million years or a billion years in the future. So it's just all nonsense. But the point is though is that like the people who follow Musk, they don't understand any of this stuff anyway. All they say is like, oh, Musk is really rich, and you're so dumb, Chris. You just hate her. You're just a hater. And people say that, and it's like, I don't know. I guess logic doesn't matter to you and science doesn't matter to you, and you just chase money, and that's who you are. But so be it. So I just try to point out the truth of this stuff, guys, and I think it's a fun one. What do you think about with the robotaxi thing? They're already failing with the name. Do you have an alternate name? And will this thing ever see the light of day? Who knows? Anyway, do appreciate your time, and we'll catch you on the next video. So, bye!
Bye.